Howdy y'all, Editor JT here. Before we start today's episode, I just wanted to stop by and inform you that my co-hosts have been hard at work in my basement, sweatshopping away at bringing you some of the best merch we've ever made. Satisfy your consumer habits, give yourself over to your most primal capitalist desires, and buy through the link below. We've got mugs, shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, all you need to get through the impending nuclear winter with maximum drip. We've got pockets on Kara, Kissinger and his Hell Buddies, unhinged Deprogram album art, and much more. This limited edition drop ends exactly 30 days after this announcement. So consume fast and consume hard as you support the show in return for some communist drip. As always, patrons have a 10% discount. Check out the store at deprogramshop.com. And now, back to the show. Okay, Diego, I gotta take this opportunity to ask, since we have a real-life Brazilian on the pod, what can you tell me about the Volkswagen Brasilia? I love this cute little car, and we didn't get them.
It is beautiful. I love it. But the Nazi history behind it is fucking horrible. So,
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I can imagine, yeah.
We have
when
to
you
be,
say Volkswagen, you're like, eh.
yeah. So we have to be very, very much aware of the aesthetics of fascism because it's everywhere. But I mean, I agree that the aesthetics is pretty. The fact that they wanted to do like a little car for the people, by the people, the simplistic approach to it, the simplicity in production as well. The fact that the fucking pieces last forever and they're so cheap and anybody can fucking modify it. It goes very much against all these right to repair late stage capitalism. So that part is pretty adorable. But then again, yeah, the Nazi piece behind it is horrible. There's a bunch of photos of Hitler on top of a Brasilia. So
Really?
Yeah, so we have to be careful.
What was the fucking, I mean, I don't expect anybody to have an answer to this, but, you know, haha, Aryan race, haha, Europe, we're the best, and then you call it Brasilia? The fuck? Like,
Yeah, well,
doesn't really work with me, you know?
Brasilia is because it was produced. It was that they got. It was during the dictatorship period. They got the license to produce the car, but because they were, I believe, either sanctioned or because they didn't have the ability to penetrate into like European markets, so they just kind of had to sell them at a discount to a whole host of third world countries, which of course Iraq was one of them. And my family owned the Brasilia.
Yes.
Holy shit.
Yeah, we call it the Brasili in Arabic, which literally just means the Brazilian. And ours was a disgusting puke red with like wood paneling.
Yes,
and
dude.
my favorite memory of it was one time taking it out in the summer from the garage where it wasn't used for a little while. It was maybe like 48 degrees Celsius, which is, I don't know, like 120 or
Hot.
30 Fahrenheit.
Jesus.
Very hot.
Oh
Yeah.
God.
And I turned on the Maroha, what's it called? The the fan.
Oh, yeah.
Air conditioning. is what we call
I
it.
realized my mistake as soon as I said it.
Yeah, I remember I turned it on and it immediately filled the inside of the cabin with a mixture of dust and like, you know, the red sand that we get from the sand waves that come from Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
It filled the inside
my
of the car
God.
while we were on the highway.
I'm resisting so much to do a gas chamber joke here.
Oh, shit. Oh,
I mean,
very good. Very bad, but very good.
Yeah, sorry.
good.
I didn't do it. I'm glad I didn't.
What a
do it.
guy.
Yeah, of course. What a guy! What a guy! but that reminds me like of the whole, like, this is going to sound like first world as fuck, but it's not, because I also remember those days. Those are going to sound very Zoomer. Even though they never experienced it. The pre-air conditioning days, the pre-fucking dishwasher days, even though I'm sure Hakeem hates his life. And, do you have a dishwasher?
Of course, I have a fucking dishwasher.
Okay. Because he will record under a bed for his whole life, but he will have a dishwasher. Okay. God bless. There was not a jab at Iraq. There was a jab specifically
at me.
Specifically at him. Okay, nothing to do with it. Yeah, and all those amenities, dude. How did you, especially in hot countries like Mexico, if you moved when you were 7, right, Diego? And you see, I actually listen to when you talk.
Wow.
Oh my God.
And Hakeem in Iraq, like, how did you fucking live without ACs? Like, holy shit.
Habibi, you can only live with AC. The reason people would have generators is specifically to run the AC. You had a guy during the wartime, right after the invasion.
But aren't ACs like since the 90s? Like, I don't. Or
No,
they
no,
exist?
yeah, mostly. But you have to remember that lots of the way we build houses is different, right? We prioritize like the natural cooling.
Exactly.
So that's why you don't have to, like, for example, what I've noticed from American or at least European houses, that they end up getting very warm because they're built to retain heat, right?
Yeah.
We don't have really, really cold weather. So in the inverse, we built to get rid of as much heat as possible to make it keep it as cool as possible. That's why, for example, when you go, most houses have some sort of like cellar kind of thing where they put, for example, massive bags of rice, like tens of kilos of rice, where we keep it. But when you go down there, it's genuinely maybe like 8 degrees or 7 degrees. It's fairly cold, actually.
Nice.
So that's not very strange. But also, what's it called? Right after the war, what we would do is, or what would happen across Iraq is you'd have, because all the infrastructure was completely destroyed, but you still needed, like, you know, natural gas and whatnot, LPG and this kind of stuff. So you'd have a guy with a donkey-driven cart, and he'd have these massive canisters driven by this donkey, and he'd just basically be yelling in the street like, "Oh, come get your gas, come get the gas!"
Oh my God.
So then we go down and we give the guy some money, and then we get a gas canister, and that's either for cooking or the other forms of gas, specifically to run generators, and then the generators are used to run specifically ACs. Otherwise, we had the fans, or we did the old school where you have like the thing that makes the things that Asian women have. The
fans?
If that's racist to say, yeah, the
little
fucking
hand
like
fans.
reed and straw.
Asian women have a lot of
Yeah.
fans, especially white dudes.
exactly
Those
right.
are different. What different? Oh fuck.
But yeah, but you know what I mean.
Not only Chinese women, but also like 80s Spanish pop groups. I don't know if
exactly
you're
right,
familiar. You can, if you want to laugh a little, just Google Locomia, and you will see like these guys dress up as they were like glam rock, but they sing in Spanish with huge fans, and like they have these long hairs, and they're like super sexual, but very, very ambiguous and confusing. It's interesting.
Nice.
So
Looks fire.
if I can just like deviate slightly from the and it's weird, like I always feel like this pedantic academic jackass, but I was reading Walter Benjamin, you know, the work of art in the era of how do you say it in English, mechanical reproduction, I think is the translation. So it's interesting because I was just reading this and reflecting about our work as content creators for the left. I don't know whatever the fuck the left means, but like we are like subvertive or revolutionary content creators. And Walter Benjamin defended a lot this sarcastic distancing from the production of the imaginary and the unrealistic content. Okay, so these 10 minutes of chit chat among comrades, it's exactly what Walter Benjamin was suggesting as a satirical distancing from the perfection of editing, because he said that content created in perfection, like with proper editing, and you never know how exactly you got there. It just starts and everything is beautiful, aesthetic, monumental. You know, like the aesthetic of fascism leads towards the construction of idealism. But everything that we do that reconnects us back not only to us as proletariat creating content, but also to the fact that there is camera, there is correction to be done, there are microphones, you know, like the whole process of value creation implied behind content consumption, it's revolutionary in media. So I think it's very, let's say, very, very, very nice of us to have these 10 minutes of wasted prime state algorithm, 10 minutes at the beginning of every video.
Absolutely. You humanize yourself a bit more, even though obviously it's not intentional or thought through, but that's what ended up being the case. Even though like the 50-50, I think, JT Hakim, correct me if I'm wrong, 50% of our audience is like, what the fuck is this first 10 minutes? What the fuck? Like, I always skip this shit. What the fuck is this? And the others are like, I literally only watched the 10 minutes. Like, fuck that. So, no, quite to the contrary. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And it's very interesting that like the internet kind of to an extent, like, yes, specifically for us creating, at least attempting to create socialist agitation, while at the same time, you know, helping people through a bit of entertainment as well, is quite new and different. Content generation in general, thanks to the development of the internet in the last 20 years at least, kind of allowed us to make this medium whatever the fuck we want to. And for such a long time, if you look at, for example, YouTube in the beginning, it was either like hardcore amateur stuff, like, you know, you just want to upload a video of you going to the zoo, or guys trying to create short films, like continuously trying to do a medium that has existed kind of on a different platform previously. previously. And this, to a very, very large extent, still exists today. But we've also basically, as a community on this, World Wide Web, have invented completely new manners through which we either want to convey information or create art or just have fun with a bunch of dudes that you chill with, So what I'm saying basically is it's completely in our hands to redefine the way we want this medium to be used. And it's a massive mistake. I mean, if you remember, a lot of dudes, like, again, completely outside of what we specifically do, but a lot of guys, like, in the beginning of YouTube, got massive on YouTube, and then they were like, I want to turn this into a quote-unquote real career, go to TV, go to film. Massive mistake, because now, like, if they continued, they would have been like 10 times more quote-unquote popular or famous, because they were, let's be honest, doing it for that reason specifically, than when they went to TV and they were just seen as the fucking cringe internet people and were only given like D-level acting roles, etc., etc. And then you saw many of these guys half a decade or a decade later coming back to the internet and trying to restart it, but it's that.
So JT, what plans do you have?
No, that's all. I'm staying right where I am. Thank you very much. And anyway, dear listener, in other words, what we're trying to say here is the dick jokes aren't just jokes. There is tremendous philosophical and material value in talking about penises on the pod.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Hello everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the Deprogram. Today we have something special in store for you. A returning titan and one of your favorites, the handsomest Brazilian of Mexican socialist agitation, Diego Ruzarin. Over 1.4 million on YouTube and 1 million on Instagram, with immeasurable reading and projects behind him. Diego obviously knows what he's doing. So let's give him a warm welcome and get right into it. With that being said, Diego, please tell our audience what you do.
Oh my God! You just set up a bar that I really didn't want to address like this. I know what I'm doing. Oh my fucking God, man! Way to put me on the spot now. But then again, joking aside, it's such a pleasure to be here again. You guys, this is the second time we had a conversation between the four of us. The first one was a blast. I had so much fun. So glad to be here again. It's a pity that in the meanwhile you were not able to come to my channel. The invitation is still very much open, and I would very much like to have you guys on board and collaborate as much as possible. Because I do believe that we have to find more ways to articulate our intentions and our efforts, because the competitor or our opponents, the capitalists, they have a very simple and systematic way of aligning their intentions with the logic of capital. So we have to find more ways to find collaboration and to build towards a common goal, instead of infighting as much as we do, and we end up wasting a lot of energy in these processes that don't necessarily build towards a common future. Having said that, I think that will be right now one of my main goals that I want to do. I want to use my size and internationality to articulate as much as possible and help people connect across borders, people that I see have common intentions. And being a Brazilian based in Mexico, being able to speak somehow a little bit of English, I'm able to connect all these people, and having the success or the luck, I don't know which one, depends on how you define free will and destiny and determinism, got into the position where I am right now, gives me this opportunity to knock on doors and actually open some doors, which is an amazing luck, but also I sense it as a type of responsibility. So the fact that I can have this conversation with you this week, and then next week talk to the main communists and socialists in Argentina, and then next week in Portuguese in Brazil, and then have another conversation with people in Europe, in Spain and Italy, provides me this opportunity. And I really want to capitalize as much as possible on that. On a more egoistic note, what I do regularly is I read a lot. I'm a bookworm. I'm a very, very boring bookworm. I have a book reading.
Keep erection increasing.
Exactly, of course.
Oh yeah, I'm a very weird bookworm. So I have this book club that we choose one book per month, and I read with my Latin American audience, and they are very normally either easy or approachable books. Like for example, Bartleby the Scrivener. I don't know if you guys have read that. I will prefer not to. And well, if you hadn't, you really have to read this type of book. Something in the life, for example, of Kafka, Metamorphosis. Right now, we're reading a graphic novel about the Dresden concentration camp during World War II, and a victim of that camp that was able to time travel, and it explains about the necessity of time consistency for the concept of morality, but is exemplified as a graphic novel, so it's very nice. So I'm trying to make people read a little bit to work their brain as a muscle that is necessary for the critique of reality. Beyond that, I have a news review that is a program I do every Monday or Tuesday, depends on how lazy or which video game I'm playing, where I review the most important events in the world. That's why I can change to Monday or Tuesday, depending if the video game is more important than the new events or not. I have to be honest here. And this is what has provided me with, I think, more let's say, media significance, because the way I address the news and the way my team edits the B-rolls, we make it very meme-like and very approachable, but I tend to use the opportunities to cite the thinkers that I enjoy and to help people come to a critical reading of reality that is not necessarily the first one available. And it most of the time goes against the propaganda reading and the propaganda meta-narrative. So I think that's what I do for the most part. On the side, I'm working on a movie, I'm working on a new book, I play a lot of video games, I take care of my kids, I work out, I go to the gym, and that's it. That's my life in a recap.
That's it.
This is very
Yeah,
modest.
wow.
I do 700 things while taking care of my kids, and just classic Diego shit. Well, we are very happy that you found the time in between all those 10 things that you do, and are very, very grateful for your work as well as your shared hour and a half, depending on how long this goes. And with that, thank you very much for the lovely self-introduction and the kind words you shared with the show. So let's use the fact that we have you here by starting to explore your beautiful continent and touch on a few geopolitical points before we move on. Starting with our favorite fail son, Elon Musk, and his recent Brazil drama. You have a great video on your channel diving deeper into the situation, but could you tell our audience what's going on and Tesla's broader interests in South and Central America's vast natural resources?
Sure. So I think the story is right on the nose, to be honest with you. If you're paying attention, it's pretty easy to read what's really happening here. So our favorite fail son, Elon Musk, presents himself as a free speech absolutist, which makes no fucking sense whatsoever, unless you're a very dumb, rotten-brained liberal that you believe people have free will and reason is what guides your behavior, and you are like this autonomous force of nature exerting your desire upon reality and shaping the future as if you were like a dumb character in BioShock or something like that. I don't know. Or if you just read way too much Ayn Rand. So the notion of free speech absolutism, that is probably the flag behind what Elon Musk is tweeting right now. Like every time he tweets about, oh my God, X is such an important platform and we actually defend free speech versus what Meta or Facebook or TikTok is doing. What people have to understand is that the logic of capital exerts a subtle effect on human behavior. And what I mean by subtle is that it's systematic and is non-centralized. And these concepts are kind of weird to explain because we'll have to go into abstract notions of rhizomatic, delusion, non-centralized entities and stuff that falls outside of the anthropocentric way that we tend to explain reality. So don't feel uncomfortable here when I'm saying we are not free. We have to believe we are free, and we enjoy the dream of being free. But that doesn't necessarily imply that we are actually, materially, objectively free. I would like to quote Spinoza here, one of the first materialists, by saying that freedom is the subjective ignorances to the causes that condition us. So there's a direct relationship between stupidity and feeling free. the more stupid you are, the freer you think you are. So in that sense, Mr. Musk is the dumbest of all. The dumbest. He's at the peak of dumbness. Like feeling absolutely free is ignoring everything that conditions you. So when he defends this notion that X stands for free speech absolutism, what we have to think of, and what I like the notion of critique in a Kantian way, to critique properly is to reveal the a priori assumptions of every statement. So what are the a priori assumptions of a free speech absolutist? Freedom of thought, freedom of action, liberal subject, unalienated subjectivity. All these a priori assumptions are wrong. And not only wrong because of my taste or ideology, but because they have been proven to be inconsistent and unsustainable in the history of philosophy. So saying a free speech absolutist owns a platform that is constituted as a company and has investors and depends on building capital and providing revenue is, to say the least, impossible. So he's again standing as a free speech absolutist and saying that his decisions are based on this normative, moralistic point of view of the world, that he wants free speech to be defended, is a very easy way to divert people from actually understanding that he's defending his class interests. To put it in a very Marxist way. So he has a position within the social political composition of society. He's in the capitalist class. He defends capitalist interests, and not because he's his free will to do so. It's because he's materially conditioned to do so. If you want a very simple example, is that Elon Musk is criticizing Brazil, and just giving a little bit of geopolitical background, because the judge Alexandre de Moraes is asking X to censor some accounts that are building some noise and providing some trouble in Brazil, being anti-democratic, fighting against the election, saying absolute and direct lies, promoting directly Nazism, and Alexandre de Moraes is asking us to censor these accounts, and Elon Musk is crying wolf, saying, oh my God, this is the end, they're censoring Brazil. But at the exact same time, Elon Musk is providing personal information to the government of Saudi Arabia to arrest and execute people that are criticizing the government of Saudi Arabia, because the government of Saudi Arabia is one of the main investors in X. So you cannot say you're a free speech absolutist and play this double game, this double speech, by saying that what Brazil is doing is censoring, but what Saudi Arabia is doing, it's okay because they're investors. So to be completely transparent about Elon Musk as a person, he's perfectly in line with his class interest. He's acting congruently with his ideals and values. He's just masking it as free speech. But that also makes sense with the stupidity of liberalism and the notion that the individual is free and can have opinions on his own and is non-alienated and knows what is best for them, and free speech actually can build prosperity and a better world. That is just the first topic. Then we can go into the historic material analysis, which I think is a little bit more complex. But I would like to hear about you guys on this free speech absolutism from Elon Musk.
For me, it's the only, I agree completely, but to me, it's very interesting to kind of peer into his mind. And I don't know if he's just classically stupid, so he actually believes in free speech absolutism, and because his eternal need to both be liked and to attempt to solve society's problems, while not being able, literally, ideologically, not being able to understand that he is the literal manifestation of the main problems that we have as a species, pretty much, at least in the way we organize our states and so on, and our economy. Or if he's absolutely conscious of all of this and is using free speech absolutism and, Twitter, blah, 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 we're going to save Brazil and so on, just as a tool. So what I'm interested in knowing, and we can't really know, is he doing this consciously just as a PR move of okay, my interests in Brazil are not going in the way that I want them to go. What can we do to destabilize the country? Let's talk about how it's an insane dictatorship that is banning that is hurting the one platform that actually wants to bring freedom of speech to everybody else. Or is he, because of his, class interest automatically who he is, and therefore is doing this organically. Basically, yeah. I would like to know, and I don't think there's a specific answer to this, is he class conscious, ironically class conscious of himself as a capitalist, and therefore he is doing this just as a propaganda move, or does he genuinely believe he's the good guy?
For me, Elon Musk is fairly straightforward. He's a Redditor if you gave that Redditor more money than God. Like, he's class conscious to the extent that anyone with that amount of wealth understands that they are in the minority, the masses are dangerous, but he just thinks that they're stupid, and he genuinely thinks he's smart, and he earned his money. I don't think there's a whole lot to analyze about Elon Musk's the state of his class consciousness. People like Warren Buffett are outspoken about their position in society. They say, yeah, there's a class war going, and I want to make sure that my class wins. Like that, those people, the tradition, quote unquote traditional capitalists, know what they're doing. Elon Musk is just a doofus who wants to be liked, and he also likes having money. So I think it's somewhere along those lines.
Probably. Especially when you compare him to exactly somebody like Warren Buffett, or somebody, for example, in media like Tucker Carlson, who very visibly know exactly what's going on, know their position in the current hierarchy, and want to fucking keep it, but they want to keep it actively. Yes. While this guy both wants to be the good guy while not being able to process the fact that, for fuck's sakes, you really are not. Yeah, I agree completely.
Hakim?
I kind of agree with JT about this. I think on one sense you have to be like a certain level of class conscious to do the things that you do, but also when it comes to these like secondary, even tertiary things, ideas of civil liberties or free speech or other nebulous, liberal or whatever, or libertarian, even quote unquote libertarian perspectives. This stuff is just kind of obfuscates the actual class relations behind it. He fundamentally understands why he doesn't want to pay taxes. He fundamentally understands why he doesn't want people unionizing in his workplaces, in his factories and whatnot. This stuff he knows concretely. But then when it comes to this other bullshit, I think it is a lot more, covered in ideology. But,
yeah, I agree. I mean, just to recap, I think what Hugo said at the end is probably closer to my position, because I was a psychoanalyst reader for a very long time. My wife is actually a practicing psychoanalyst, so I had to read and understand Lacan and Freud, which is a burden I would not ask of anyone else. But it was interesting because it's strange, because my background is mainly materialism, and reading most Freudio-Marxists, Erich Fromm and all these guys that were actually Freudio-Marxists, there's no such thing as a non-alienated subjectivity. So it is to say that every subjectivity that we can develop, it's because of a degree of alienation. And this degree of alienation is our inability to recognize ourselves with our true self, let's say. And I want to say true self because there is no such thing. It's the incompatibility between the symbolic, the imaginary, and the real. This is out of this incompatibility, this fundamental incompatibility, and the way we use rationality and consciousness, that subjectivity is born. Because of this fundamental gap between the imaginary, the symbolic, and the real. And the real, being the closest one of the registers to materialism, is the one that is conditioned by class material conditions. So yes, whatever Elon Musk does is because of the way his subjectivity is constituted by his material conditions. So in that sense, even his romantic bullshit, it's an outcome of his position in society and in the mode of production, in the meta mode of production, I would say. So his ability to choose and not to choose which aspects of his ideology to romanticize and which ones are the one that he knows for a fact, both of them are ideological in my very Freudio-Marxist reading.
Agreed. Or as people on the internet say, cope. He's just coping. Absolutely.
Yeah, please. So going ahead, I wanted to make this first parenthesis because Elon Musk is such a controversial figure that it's always good to take a jab on him when we have the opportunity. But having said that, I think the conflict itself is simpler. No? So we have the lithium triangle in South America, which is Bolivia, Chile, and Argentina, which is the highest density and concentration of lithium in the world. Lithium, of course, is right now one of the main materials for the 4.0 industries in the future. So, of course, the whole world is very much interested interested in this concentration. It doesn't necessarily mean that all the lithium is in those spaces. A lot of countries in Latin America have lithium, but we also have to think about Latin America as a geopolitical system. So from Bolivia, you need ports in order to transport the lithium and get it into the sea. And we know the importance of the sea in this century is going to be fundamental to establish actual power and dominance over the means of production for the next wave of the electrical movement. So all countries in Latin America are somehow today related to lithium. And Brazil is no exception. So the past government of Brazil was under Bolsonaro, which was this delusional former military proto-fascist conservative fanatic idiot, and I could go on with the dissing adjectives for him, and I wouldn't never end. But the fact that this guy, he was in a way even beyond his original intentions, furthering the neoliberal agenda in Brazil. He dismantled a lot of the sovereignty capacity of the state. He left us impoverished. He provided with facilities and let's say easiness of the penetration of multinational companies into our sovereign territory. And he, as a whole, weakened Brazil. And he weakened Brazil not only in government, in state, in economics, but also very much culturally and in terms of how the society understands itself in the world. During that time, Elon Musk actually went to Brazil, traveled to Brazil, handshake with this idiot and his two sons, and they got into an agreement to provide Starlink to some remote parts of Brazil, because people would tend to overestimate the size of Brazil, which is fucking humongous, and also plan ahead to say that he wanted to install Tesla in Brazil. So this was done during the government of Bolsonaro. And of course, Bolsonaro was very happy, Elon Musk was very happy, and no one else was happy about it. Well, I'm not going to lie. There was a third party that was very happy about it. The illegal miners of the north of Brazil that were using Starlink and the illegal internet to explore illegally the minerals in the earth and kill people and kidnap and conduct illegal activities. Okay, so in that sense, it was completely aligned with not only neoliberalism, but as Hakim said, with libertarism or anarcho-capitalism as an end goal for the slow dismantling of whatever government or safety nets we have in order to fully eradicate any barrier or resistance for the logic of capital. So that was the wet dream of Elon Musk in Brazil. So we tear down the government, we put on a puppet idiot that I can buy that is very, very cheap, and then I can do whatever I want with the lithium. I can use the ports. This is my entry point into South America. If I establish Tesla and Starlink in Brazil, then I can migrate into Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, and then slowly I can get a grasp under this territory. So what happened in reality is not the fact that the government of Brazil wanted to use X to censor some influencers in Brazil because they were fucking crazy. No, it was the fact that the government of Brazil gave 3 huge concessions to BYD, which is this Chinese electric car company, today the biggest electric car company in the world. It's called Build Your Dreams, that overpassed Tesla. And now BYD is building 3 electric vehicle plants in the north of Brazil. So this is why Elon is totally butthurt. And I think this is the explanation. Why is Elon making such a mess in Twitter about Brazil? Because he's fucking butthurt. Yeah. That's it. That's why. That's the recap of the story is that he was getting Brazil for cheap. And now Lula completely played the government of the US because he got help from the government of the US to get out of jail and become electable once again. And once he got elected, like a fucking mastermind, he came out of jail just like Nelson Mandela, which is, I think, is a very nice coincidence, talking about sovereignty, talking about building a strong Brazil, talking about productivity, talking about the socialism of the 21st century like China, which got me super hard. And then he joined BRICS, and I was like, oh my God, this guy is fucking amazing. And now he's giving power plants to BYD with local partners, which is awesome. And then we can probably talk about this because it's insane. Like at this time, we have this going on in Brazil, but I'm based in Mexico in a city called Monterrey, which is supposed to be the first city to have a Tesla factory in Latin America. So I'm trapped in between these 2 realities, and it is insane to see the difference in political speech, in popular discourse, how people are treating these news, and the actual effects on labor, economy, and culture happening the 2 very opposite ends of the spectrums at the same time. But just to recap, Elon is like mega butthurt.
Absolutely. And how is I mean, obviously you can't survey everybody, but you can feel the political climate, specifically in Mexico, about Tesla incoming. I'm guessing it's being sold as, oh, we're bringing investments, oh, we're bringing jobs, oh, we're joining the future, etc., etc. But are people eating it up, or is it a bit more controversial locally?
Well, I think it's, let's say, it's dominated by this naive optimism, which I think is to be expected because people are dumb.
Of course.
But there are some dissidents.
And they're hungry. They're like, okay, jobs.
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
Exactly. But what they don't see, and what I think is nice to use as an example, the Amazon huge distribution center in Tijuana, next to the border of San Diego, okay? They installed a huge Amazon plant in Tijuana, this city in the border with San Diego. And you can see the pictures, and it looks like a trailer for Elysium.
Yeah.
You know, it looks like you have this huge building in the middle of nowhere, and it's a dumpster everywhere around it. So, no. Globalist companies do not bring prosperity at all. What we have to do is what Brazil is doing with BYD in Brazil, and what the government of China did 40 years ago when it was inviting these technological companies to Shenzhen and other provinces in China. What we have to do, and actually it was interesting because when I was based in Singapore, working with the government of Singapore, I had to establish a local company there. And the first thing they told me is that you need to have a 50% local national partner shareholder in your company, which I agree 100%. If you're going to open a plant in my country, you need to have local partners, you need to have local capital, and you need to have intellectual property positions available for local talent, which is what Tesla is not doing in Mexico, but what BYD is doing in Brazil. So this for me is one fundamental difference of why China was able to prostitute cheap labor for 40 years in exchange for intellectual property in order to right now compete and even outcompete and outpace the foreign or the original invaders or globalist colonizers that moved their companies for cheap labor to China. So that's the main difference. And I think right now what you will see is that what will dominate the discourse, and this is normal because it's their class interest, the owner of the companies, which are also the sponsors of newspaper and media, they're very happy about the arrival of Tesla. Because why? They're going to sell the land, they're going to sell commodities, and they're going to sell cheap labor. But why is perceived as something good? Because they also invest in the newspaper, they own the television channels, and they own the politicians. So it's very easy to control and direct the meta-narrative in the direction that they want. But what people will find out in a very harsh way is that only the non-qualified, the stupid jobs are going to be available for very, very little dollars. None of the intellectual property is going to stay in Mexico, and the key technological and strategic decisions are going to be taken in Los Angeles and San Diego and the Silicon Valley, but very, very far away from Mexico. So none of the gravy, none of the goodness of having an avant-garde 4.0 company is going to be noticed in the region, which is completely different from what Brazil is trying to do with BYD, because they are enforcing the socialism of the 21st century politics to actually make sure that what we develop with strategic partnerships is productive capacity. And this is what we should aim for in geopolitics in the future.
Absolutely, especially in the developing world, obviously. And it's very interesting to see how exactly all those the representatives of the top echelons of the ruling capitalist elite directly or indirectly influence mass media. And you can see, like, for example, if I use Europe and its current ideological battle between, hey, we are free market absolutists, and at the same time, we will completely restrict the free market when it comes to Chinese industry or Chinese product leaking into the continent. Even outside of the European Union, if we use countries like, for example, Serbia, that has a lot of Chinese companies moving into it, all local rhetoric, and obviously even more international rhetoric on, like, if a Western company opens an office, it is just ideologically de facto good because the Westerner does not exploit, the Westerner brings civilization, the Westerner makes us a bit more like them, right? while every single Chinese company, it's immediately like, Jesus Christ, the city is going to just be full of smog, and it's going to bring Chinese people as well. It's they're not going to respect any workers' rights, etc. All again, extremely ideologized positions. And I really like for example, I can speak about Chinese factories in Central Europe, South Europe, and a lot in Eastern. Even though in Eastern, kind of, except in Belarus with a few, it's not really a thing. It's always the meme. They're like, oh, but they always bring Chinese workers. Yeah, they bring very often the manual laborers and management who is going to teach local management on how to do things in the future, and then they usually share the percentage ownership, as Diego previously said, with the locals. While, yeah, sure, the Yank, when he opens, I've worked for plenty of these fucking companies. Yes, he will mass hire locally, and he will get other internationals in the country to work for you, etc. But every single local executive position, every single local higher management position, every single local, let's call it high intellectual capacity, the top engineers, etc. They are all going to be from their local countries. The only thing that's going to be given to you is the absolute hardcore scrap jobs of just spinning a wire on a fucking rod and then reselling it. Exactly. So it's a different approach, and you don't need to love capital coming in from either of these places, but you need to understand just how different it is, number one, and number two, most important, what Diego said, how you can use it. It doesn't need to be love or respect or whatever. How you can use it to develop your own productive capacities locally, because unfortunately that is how the fucking market works, and that is how developing your own industrial and productive capacities works.
Just one little caveat to your comment, because it was very timely. I forgot to mention it. So Elon Musk, at the same time that he's fighting with Brazil, he's lobbying in the US to restrict the entrance of Chinese EV vehicles to the US market. And he openly said, that if we let China come into the US, we're going to lose. So they defend the free market as a, and this is
while they were growing, that's
Can I completely honest with you? Not even Hugo. The free market ideology was a moral point of view for the colonies, and only that. Free market morality, it was used to educate colonies into competition. That was it. The US was never about the free market mythology. Never. The US was always protectionist. Always. It was never a free market economy. It was always protectionist. The morality of the free market was used, and you can read this. There was a very good book, but I think it's only in Spanish, about, liberalism comes from the courts of Cadiz, from Spain, the liberal arts and the servile arts. So the idea, liberty, liberal, comes from libertad in Spanish, freedom. So this is fundamentally a very Spanish-driven ideology that was the birth. You can trace it back to the court of Cadiz, and they took liberalism as a moral template to educate lazy peasants, Indians, and autochthonous civilizations. But they never truly applied it. They never did. The only way countries develop is protectionism. Factually speaking, objectively speaking, never. There is not even one example in the history of mankind where the free market has led to the advance of the capacities of production. Never. It was always about protectionism. But they sold it to us as if, they tell the story, they mask evolution as a result of free market economics and the logic of free trade. But it was never true. There's not even one example in history.
Very true. I just want to add something that, the conversation kind of moved past it, but I guess my country is the only quote-unquote third world quote-unquote country. Brazil and Serbia, sorry to say, are kind of in the same boat as us. But I think we don't have the same, we have this particular war-torn history, which means lots of infrastructure was destroyed, which means that there's lots of room to build massive amounts of infrastructure in Iraq. Unlike, for example, of course, Serbia and Brazil have more room room for further industrialization, but not to the same extent that Iraq does. And about the point with Chinese contribution or presence in these construction spheres, the idea that Hugo mentioned about, like on one side, if it's an American company coming building something, it's all of a sudden good, but if it's a Chinese company coming doing something, all of a sudden, oh no, like, the Chinese are penetrating into our, they're gonna
but national interest, bro.
Exactly,
But
yeah. And in Iraq, it's not so much like that, but there's a very small subsection of people, but they're very vocal, who are very against everything Chinese, which makes no sense, despite the fact that there's even like an official body, not bureau, but an office of the government that's supposed to basically make it easier for Chinese investment to make its way into Iraq, and specifically when it comes to infrastructure. But along the same lines, when it comes to, for example, schools and certain hospital departments and a bunch of other stuff like this, the Chinese have been fantastic in this, in mutual contracts between the Iraqi government and the Chinese government or Chinese industry, in which they come and build, for example, schools, let's say. And it's exactly like you mentioned, they'll bring in their people to lay the foundation basically, but then just kind of hand it over to indigenous production so that they still have the room to continuously build in the future should they need to. It's a very different sort of investment compared to that which we've normally been used to in Iraq between 2005, 2006, after the worst bits, or no, I mean 2008, I say, worst bits of the war until 2015, where you'd see certain European and North American investment that was very extractive in nature. But anyways, I just want to give kind of that perspective that we have as well.
I mean, that can lead us into a wider conversation about internalized bourgeois culture, which, all workers take on themselves as the new normal by simply living their life in the capitalist system. But what's even more interesting to me is the almost, we mentioned it even 10 times by now, self-orientalizing manner in which people from countries like ours, not you, JT, embrace empire as de facto their friend, and often subconsciously the West is taken as the, again, de facto good guy, a representation of rationality, civilization, progress. Diego, where do you think, especially in the context of what your partner does for a living and your background, what do you think, where does this come from? Why do we all, after getting fucked by the West, still want to be the West so much?
We can go back to this notion that we are unable to come up with a self-imposed notion of who we are, what we are bound to do in the earth, and how we are to come about our futures. We are fundamentally collective beings, social beings. Language is fundamentally collective. Language makes no sense if it's a monologue. Even worse, if you come up with your own words, they will make no sense. So you can say that everything articulated in discourse is fundamentally borrowed from others, right? So
yes,
we build, and it's strange because we explain to ourselves how the world works using borrowed words. And these words are not neutral. They are fully charged historically, contextually, morally, ethically. So we use these abstract metaphysical concepts to build a notion of how reality functions. But we feel and we naively pretend that they're like Legos with building blocks. And they're more like computer viruses for the way we understand and we think about thinking. And I know this is getting too complicated, but what I'm trying to say here is that correlationship is indispensable. So yes, we always need somebody else to provide us with a sense of grounding to whatever we're thinking. So in that sense, it's impossible to feel like you are this, third party standing outside of reality that can come up with a judgment of how to behave and what is the right direction of how society should be built. We always depend on something else that provides relative higher ground, either morally or metaphysically or rationality or whatever. So we are bound to sustain our judgments to others' judgments. Does that justify authoritarianism, fascism, or the rule of the other, or the imposition by the other? Not necessarily. I think there's a direction for a more horizontal emancipation where the forces and the asymmetries that will constitute future subjectivities are not the ones that exist today. But the ones we have today that are that in a way are the ones that are over-determining us as subjects, they create these huge asymmetries, right? So we tend to think of, and it's weird because Kant was probably the first philosopher to talk about morality and ethics in this way. But morality and ethic, it's like an Oedipical structure from Freud. Every time we think about the good acts as a superego. And of course, the good in a contingent time and moment and situation is determined by the dominant hegemony. So it's hard to think about good and bad outside of contingent conditions. Good and bad is always determined by whoever rules the discourse in that period and time. And since we were born in the meta-mode of production of capitalism, and we are all sons and daughters of capitalism, our notion of morality is always bound to whatever the hegemonic ideology of good and bad is. So that's why these thinkers are never out of order. You know, that's why we have to revisit Nietzsche and the slave morality. We have to revisit Hegel and the notion of the master-slave dialectic. We have to revisit Marx and, you know, finding dignity and self-realization in work and building towards a collaborative future. But none of these explanations free us from the fact that we have to depend on external forces in order to determine what we strive or constitute as our desired future. So the way out of fascism is not to become individualistic, self-aware, and independent. No, this is what liberalism tried to do. And it led further into fascism because it led further into the notion of moralities as ideology. That's not the way, according to me. According to me, what we have to find is a humble recognition of our codependency and an urgency to the proliferation and practical execution of praxis that is congruent with a collaborative future. This is my idea. Does that make any sense, or was I too abstract?
No, it does. No. You were not too abstract, in my opinion, at least, because the question was specifically why. Like, we were looking at it more from a state and cultural level, and very often when people talk about Gramscian ideas of bourgeois culture being internalized, etc., but everybody, because they live in that society, when it's extrapolated even to especially to a world as globalized as the one that we live in today, when culture and ideas of who you want to be, which obviously are completely informed by the material reality you find yourself in, when you extrapolate that, then obviously we will slowly either want to become or subconsciously become whatever is the current status quo. And on a more international level, to not repeat myself, the current status quo is the imperial core. That is what culture is. That is what a normal life is, quote unquote normal. That is what natural is. That is what progress is. And therefore we immediately generate it as de facto as normalcy. Yeah.
In this day and age, meritocracy and liberalism is equal to morality.
Mm-hmm. Yep. At least the myth of it, absolutely, of meritocracy specifically. Speaking of meritocracy, let's move to our second favorite fail son. Maybe he's your favorite. The sister fucker himself, Javier Milei. You've been paying very close attention to developments. So what's the current attitude towards our century's first great right libertarian project? Is he able to push through his ideas? How's his support base? What's happening to the Argentinian economy? The usual,
Let's start by saying it's a catastrophe. And I'm like, all the jokes I'm going to do from now on, I do them with a sarcastic distancing, but I feel really sorry for Argentinians. I know people are really struggling. I have a lot of Argentinian friends. I love Argentina. Buenos Aires is one of my favorite cities in the world. I've been there many, many times. Like, I was even baptized in the Maradonian church. I don't know if you guys know what this is.
Wow. But wait, is there an actual Maradonian church, or was that like a soccer reference?
No. It's a real church where they have rituals and they pray and they get together. They avoid taxes. The whole thing. It's a real church. Yeah.
But wait, is it based on Maradona, the player, or some say?
Yes.
Holy shit! It's Saint Maradona, my favorite fucking pro-Cuba, coke snorting, fucking
Exactly.
hand scoring. So I
true-
love. Fuck yeah.
A
Fuck
truist,
yeah.
a true deity, deity by the old extent of the world. I just want to say, like, I did a documentary. Sorry?
Unironic inspiration to me. You know?
Yes,
Like
yes,
I don't watch
absolutely.
football, but as a person, to be so unhinged and yet so like on the spot. Holy fucking shit.
He did true miracles. I can state to that. I mean, I have more firm belief in his miracles than most deities that are trying to being sold to me. So I believe in the Maradonian Church. So as a Brazilian, to be baptized in the Maradonian Church, as you can imagine, is a huge heresy. I almost lost my Brazilian passport. It was a problem. but that's also a testimony to my love and respect for the Argentinian people. So take this with a grain of salt. So Milei is a disaster. By what extent? Poverty is extended to 59.8% is the last data I saw. 59% poverty. It's insane. They have triple the amount of per month in inflation, more than Venezuela. Because Venezuela was like this favorite libertarian example of the problems of socialism and planned economies. Well, now we can easily say that Argentina is becoming Argenzuela. So it's like this, Argentina is becoming Venezuelized is becoming Venezuela by the extent of ideology. And the other data that is incredible to me is that there was an increment of 11% in homelessness in Argentina.
Jesus Christ.
Plainly, mildly, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a fucking disaster. It's a catastrophe. The guy destroyed a lot of the political infrastructure of the country. He closed up a lot of the government programs that were in place to help people. He tried to deregulate the coin. He had these ideas about dollarizing the economy, which is a fucking stupid nightmare. But the way I see it is that I think every libertarian's wet dream is at the same time his worst nightmare. That is actually to have power. It's insane. Like they have these wet dreams about getting to power.
I will steal that. That is a very strong quote. I will steal that.
But it's perfectly, the incongruency is congruent to who they are. It's nothing is more congruent to libertarism than incongruency, because like they hate the state but they need it. It's like it's crazy because property, liberty, and whatever the third bullshit virtue was about libertarism. Yeah, so property. Who's gonna give you a right of property? You need a central authority, right? So who's going to provide you and ensure freedom? Force, coercion. So by definition, every libertarian virtue is stupidity. It's stupidity at its core. So I think what we have now is just like this wet dream realizing itself as a real nightmare. Because he comes into power, he immediately has to negotiate with other parties. So he becomes, like stained with shit because he has to eat his words. Before you're a politician, being a libertarian is very easy. You just say, I'm going to get everyone out of the government and I'm going to make the government disappear and I'm not going to make any deals with any dirty communists and fuck leftists and fuck woke whatever and just like discourse. But once you get into power, real politics, realpolitik, you have to negotiate. You have to trade and ask for votes in the Senate and and you end up getting caught up into the bullshit of politics, which is the manifestation of liberalism, and you see libertarism is practically impossible, and the only way to actually enforce it is with fascism. So what happens? They go into the streets with military support. They end up beating to the ground and physically beating elderly people asking for their retirement money. And I wish I was making this up, but this is true. They beat up people that were blind because they were doing a manifestation for a syndicate of the handicap in Argentina. They end up with the police beating them to the ground. So that's it. In practice, libertarism is just fascism. It's just fascism West Dream. And this, of course, if you read a little bit, is no surprise because von Mises said this. Rothbard said this, Hayek said this. They all know it. They, the smart ones, at least they know it. The dumb ones, the ones that were educated with YouTube and memes, they think some type of anarchism is possible. The smart ones, they know that libertarism is just a way to apply fascism. It's just that. So Milei, in a recap, is exactly that. The guy is completely insane. He's in love with his sister. He has cloned his dead dogs 5 times. He holds a stave every day, and this is not a joke. He has like this wizard rod that he walks around with a metal cap with the face of his 5 clone dogs.
Oh my God!
He speaks to his dead dog. No, it's too good to be true. I swear. This is why we don't need fantasy. Reality already overpassed it by a lot.
If you wrote a script with him as a character, like every executive was like, "Dude, this is too unrealistic. This is stupid." Like,
this is something. This
Nobody's
is too
gonna
much.
believe this fucking story. Yeah.
So that's Argentina in a nutshell. I don't know what else we can say.
Oh, brilliant! So a crazy dog cloning guy walking around with a cane and sister fucker screaming about anarcho-capitalism is literally who I imagine immediately when I think about libertarianism.
Also, he loves Elon Musk.
It works. Of course, dude. You I can't make any joke about this that hasn't already been made like 700 times, even in this episode. Okay.
How do you guys see it, or how is Javier Milei mentioned in your countries? Because here in Mexico, the right fucking adores Milei.
Here, nobody talks about him at all. Like in the United States,
Right,
we don't know any world leaders besides like Trudeau and maybe Macron. That's it in the United States. It's really sad.
And Putin and Zelensky.
Yeah, the bad ones. Yeah.
And Netanyahu.
Iraqis tend to be fairly well, I guess, oriented when it comes to this sort of stuff. When it comes to Latin America, it depends. It's usually like, I'll give this example. If one person from your Latin American country did something that benefited Iraq in the past 100 years, people will remember that goodwill till the end of time. All right.
Wow.
They remember, for example, Venezuela. I remember the time Chavez visited. Was it Maduro or Chavez that visited Iraq?
Chavez.
But yeah, Chavez did, and what's it called? He drove around Baghdad with Saddam at the time. But anyways, yeah, and there was some like oil things that were signed and whatnot, and other trade bilateral relations stuff. And to this day, people still think very highly of Venezuela and Venezuelans. There was something with Mexico as well to do with some oil excavation stuff. And to this day is the same thing. So yeah, likewise, people will tend to assume these things. But when it comes to Argentina specifically, nobody knows about Milei. I have not spoken to one single person that has ever mentioned. Even when like the memes started happening, I would joke around. People knew that something was happening, but nobody knew about this one dude.
Yeah, it's funny because he's such a clown. He's such a character that you'd think people would catch on at some point. But I think part of it here in the United States, like even if people do know, they recognize how poorly the project is going, and the default position for a lot of people who consider themselves on the right in the United States is some kind of weird patriotic libertarianism, like small government chud kind of thing, so they just won't mention it.
Yeah, I think Milei leads to like interesting analysis and interesting considerations about the potential future, because of course what Milei is just the spy of the CIA in Latin America. We know as Latin Americans, and this is probably one of my biggest projects, is to build the big America, La Gran America, that we call it, like to unify and to make one aligned geopolitical bloc out of all Latin American countries. This is the dream. And the union between Brazil and Argentina is the first thing that needs to happen for that to work, because the connection of the rivers will connect the Atlantic and the Pacific and will connect the main industrial regions of the region. So that's what needed to happen. What we need in order to build a big America is to get Brazil and Argentina aligned. And of course, the United States knows that, and it will never allow it to happen. So as soon as BRICS started flirting with countries in Latin America, and I don't know if you remember this, but the former president of Argentina, Fernandez, had already agreed to join BRICS just before Javier Milei won. Immediately, his campaign got dumped hundreds of millions of dollars in order to ensure his victory in Argentina. And the first thing he did is to withdraw from BRICS. And then now he's giving military bases to the US in Patagonia, which is the further south of Argentina, and he's applying to join NATO. So what is Milei? No one that really matters in a sense. He's just a political clown that used to be a right-wing economical influencer in the social media, winning debates online, like this destiny or whatever idiots exist elsewhere. He was just like that. And the US saw him as the potential candidate that had enough traction to win an election. So he got funded by the CIA. He won the election. He withdrew from BRICS. And now he's applying to NATO. That's it. And this is the US interest in the region, making sure that we don't unify Brazil with Argentina in order to assure the sovereignty of a huge geopolitical bloc that is the future of Latin America.
Absolutely. And that kind of moves us into our next topic to an extent. As we all know, the right's been on the rise everywhere. For example, in Europe, under the flag of more traditional right-wing rhetoric, sometimes spiced up with a coat of paint on regular old-school bigotry. But in the Americas, with Trump, Milei, Bolsonaro, and similar figures, we see the need for a more unhinged, hyper-populist, as much as I hate the fucking term, sort of over-the-top clown man to lead these lost reactionary hordes. Why do you think that is? What kind of strange self-modification is the anti-socialist movement organically molding itself into, and why? You know, we no longer have the well-kept-together Mussolini on the balcony or the extremely stern, every move that I make is important, Adolf, etc., etc. These guys are like absolutely batshit and very visibly batshit. Not saying that the other guys previously were not, and yet it works so well with a very, let's say, annoyed by the status quo local electorate.
So this may be a heartbreaking response, but I think this is all control opposition.
Yeah. Always.
Yeah. I think right now what we have is control opposition. Like my conclusion at the moment is that capitalism is left-leaning and progressive.
Tell me more.
Capitalism has to be left-leaning and progressive. Because, as Marx said, everything that is solid is melt into liquid and everything that is sacred becomes profane. So capitalism is the slow tendency to the self-replicating logic of capital and the slow destruction of any type of resistance, whatever origin it may have. So capitalism has to tear down every barrier in order for the logic of self-proliferation. Family, state, values, virtue, rituals, whatever. Everything is going to be melted out of the air. And the only dominant logic is the logic of capital. And I think right now, I'm not saying this is an atemporal statement, but right now, capitalism is left-leaning and progressive. So what I think happens with these right-wing figures is that they are just control opposition, in the sense that we are in a transitory process, in a transitory stage, where we still have voters that are boomers that don't understand postmodern capitalism. They were not born into postmodern capitalism. So they are still seduced by the monumentality of fascism, the repetition of rituals, the conservation of positions of powers and hierarchies and relationships of authority. So they are seduced by these narratives via the poetry of conservatism. So what right-wing politicians are selling is the poetry of conservatism, but they are truly selling the logic of fascism and authoritarianism. On the other side, what we have, the left is selling deconstruction postmodernism and the slow destroying of every means of resistance to capitalism. But in that sense, both are promoting the logic of capital. We have to remember as Marxists, the true opposition is not left and right. The true opposition is communism and capitalism. That's the true opposition. And whenever we say left and right, we are still talking within liberal economics and liberal politics, which are the same. There's no such thing as economic without politics. There is only political economy. Economy is not a discipline. It's only political economy. So whenever we say left and right, we are talking about liberal political economy. And in that sense, I think the left was very successful at building this international political narrative as a control opposition, making us choose between left and right, when both of them are promoting, in a way, the logic of capital.
I think there's a few assumptions and broad strokes in your... I understand what you're saying, but somebody who is not listening to the depth that you're intending would very easily misunderstand. So maybe I can just kind of give the dressing that it needs.
Please.
The way that I'm interpreting what you're saying is like this. When you mention controlled opposition, not necessarily controlled in that way, but number one, there is a sort of co-optation or co-opting of various, of course, sloganeering and movements and ideas that are in vogue currently and are commodified under capitalism, even though they're quote unquote progressive. And this being pushed along can be, rather than having it be on the fringe and be actually a liberation, an aspect of liberation, it can be kind of put into a box where it can be further commodified, controlled, and then be handed out as pride flags on MasterCards and this kind of stuff.
Ethical consumption.
Yeah, exactly. That's one aspect that you're mentioning. About the controlled opposition aspect and liberal economy or liberal political approaches, the way that I'm interpreting what you're saying is basically mostly in the form of social democratic, liberal aristocratic formations. I don't think you specifically mean actual Marxist groupings or anti-capitalist groups.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that this is an incredibly important point because, again, like me in Iraq or you in Brazil, we have a very different perspective than, for example, JT would have in the United States, or not JT particularly, but people like JT, right, in the United States. Because when you mention left-wing in Brazil, or when you mention left-wing in Iraq, you think of communists. You think of actual anti-capitalists with a particular anti-capitalist base, with a particular theoretical base, particularly based in Marxism-Leninism and their offshoots. When you mention a leftist in the United States, they think like
liberal,
a left liberal at the very most. Yeah. Like Bernie Bro is a considered far left over there.
Exactly.
So there's a little bit of overtone window things. So yeah, liberals in the wall were screaming very loudly.
Yank liberals in the walls were like, oh my fucking god. Absolutely great context. Yeah. Great context to give to this. Absolutely. I mean, it can commodify absolutely everything except class consciousness, class division, and that's respect the enemy, quote unquote. Yeah. That's the beauty and the horror of it.
One thing I'll also add is you mentioned, for example, the boomer types that are fascinated by the poetry of conservatism and the monumentality of fascism, all this kind of stuff. I will agree with you that there is a certain like old timiness to it, but there's also almost like ethereal attraction to this false consciousness. It exists even, like for example the tradcath fascist that's 17 years old. This is a very common thing that you see amongst false consciousness of a particular strand of exactly, incels, particular strand of the working class youth, or even lumpen youth at certain times within the United States. So this is not I will agree with you that there is, of course, like this conservative boomerism that also leads into it, but there is a new life being breathed into fascism, because fascism is fundamentally an expression of capitalism in decay. Capitalism is very thoroughly decaying as we're speaking, and as a result, it kind of gains this new vitality, which has nothing to do with old-timey conceptions. I'm sure in a bunch of years we're going to see a properly formed and formulated fascist movement, which also, as part of its tenets, has a particular respect for example, LGBT movements. You see this with Le Pen and all these other ones. Of course, it will never work out in the end. They'll turn inwards, just like how they always turn inwards against each other, right? In their ethno-state, they're going to start pointing fingers at who's more white and who's less white, who's more pure and who's less pure, and then they're going to eventually destroy themselves. But in the...
And it eventually just ends up just being men.
Yeah, exactly.
Three dudes fucking, because they killed everybody else. Yeah.
Honestly, based. That's what this podcast is.
Yeah, absolutely. Gay fascism, yeah! Let's go! I'm kidding.
But anyways, no, exactly right. So, just laying the ground for the context, please. I just wanted to mention.
I agree 100%. And, these these alpha males and these, nostalgia for past... gender organizations that is emerging everywhere. I agree. I became a social event or a media event in Latin America because of the debate that I participated, that I was in front of one of these guys, one of these alpha males that wants us to go back to all of this. And I dunked on the guy so hard that the president tweeted about it, and the president spoke about it in a newsroom. And it was interesting because I've made so many enemies on that side. It's insane. And the proliferation of these figures, the Andrew Tates, and there's a very famous guy in Spain called Balos, and these neo-reactionary. So why is it appealing to all these people? It's one of the main questions that intrigues me in how the right was able to tap into the youth insatisfaction and provide this pseudo answer. And how come we were not able to do it? You know, like how do we miss this opportunity? Alienation is that.
I think we're immediately always sorry for interrupting, but always shot in the foot when it comes to this, because class consciousness is the opposite of naivety, and youth is pure naivety, and that, even though it's their great strength, it is not necessarily, unless they organize properly, is not necessarily long-term sustainable. You will be a cringe lord or a Totenkopf fucking t-shirt wearing, shoot all the women because they don't want to have sex with me. Well, you're 16, 17, 18, then you're actually going to have sex. And you're like, what the fuck? This is fucking stupid. What the fuck was I thinking? It's not necessarily sustainable. But as we get further alienated and as capitalism further falls apart, that sort of rhetoric will be intensified because, as we all know, they will continuously try to push you away from class conscious analysis of why you're actually eating shit towards external groups which you want to redefine. And right now, the easiest one that has always existed, I can't believe fascists didn't use it with greater intensity before, but now it's going to, in my opinion, become like the main kind of organizational block around when it comes to further more radicalized members of the right that Hakeem was talking about, as compared to, you know, just old-timey conservatives, and that's going to be around the woman, the woman de facto getting the status of an equal means that you are having something taken away. And because this has been taken away from you, that is why you have all your problems. Don't think that your boss is paying you $11 an hour and making $50 from what you're producing. No. It's the BITCH.
You have to compete with girls for jobs. Yeah. You have to compete with girls for jobs, and you have to actually convince them that you're good in bed to actually lay with them.
For just buy them out. Oh my God.
Yeah. No, I swear to God, there's this really book about how women had better sex under socialism, and I think the analysis is brilliant. Book, it's super brilliant. It's just saying, like, you know, like,
it's a
if
very
we had
liberal
equal
book, though. I'll just mention that her conclusions about, you know, like, oh, women have a more security in their life and whatnot. As a result, they can actually be more, you know, less stressed. Blah blah. All it's true, but also she's sock them and but everything's authoritarianism. You know, Gulag, Stalin. Otherwise,
I know. She falls into the trap. But the premise, you know, at least the Freudian premise, to say that if you're actually on closer or more horizontal conditions, you actually have to be a good lover to get couples. You know, it's just like, you know, like taking away other variables will lead you back to actually you have to know how to please them to be a viable couple. I think it's a worthwhile argument.
I want to go back one real quick just to the thing you Gopnik mentioned, the how fascism and their propaganda is not necessarily sustainable because, you know, you get the youth when they're young and bitter and angry and all that stuff, and then they kind of grow out of it more or less. I think it is also important to point out that the fascists don't necessarily need longevity in that regard. If they get, 2, 3, 5 million 16-year-olds, like there's that quote from Lord of War where the guy is saying, like, a bullet from a 14-year-old is just as effective as a bullet from a 40-year-old, right? So if they can get a critical mass of them fast enough, that's GG. And that's why in the United States you see a lot of fascist movements, particularly the Proud Boys, or not the Proud Boys, excuse me, Patriot Front. They're kind of the propaganda arm of the United States fascist movement. That's why they target the suburbs, because you've got kids in the suburbs, 15, 16, 17-year-old kids who don't have any opportunities, whose life is entirely contained, being driven around by their moms in between isolated bubbles of capital. They'll go to Kohl's for an outing to buy some cheap sunglasses or something, and they have no autonomy to go anywhere themselves. It's very easy. Like I was in, I'm talking about this in an upcoming video. We took our daughter to the playground, and there were these parents picking up Easter eggs. This was on Easter. They're picking up a bunch of these, the little plastic Easter eggs that you put candy inside, and so I went and I picked, and they were throwing them away. So I asked one, like, why are you throwing away Easter eggs? And they said, just look inside. So I open it up, and inside there's this little slip of paper with a picture of a dude from Patriot Front, with the mask and the flag and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
And it said, I've got it somewhere in the office. It was something horrific. Either imagine a world without the N-word, or it's like united we stand against the N-word, something like that. And they do that on purpose. They are targeting children specifically because that's the only way that this works, right? If they can win a generation of the youth by making them angry enough and have them for 3 years and get a critical enough mass, next time we have a January 6th, if they're actually politically organized and have a plan, whether it's based on Project 2025 or whatever other fascist drivel they come up with, then we have a problem. But that's just something I wanted to mention. It might be particular to the United States, the suburb thing, but it is interesting to see.
No, it is general, and it is across almost any spectrum. Without proper organization, you can't make good ideas, but also even batshit fucked up ideas work. And men like Milei and Bolsonaro and many others in the controlled opposition, if you want to call it, end up being successful because they have the literal arm of empire, the kings and queens of organization and capital, and getting shit done right behind them. And they might not believe in the same ideas, but they absolutely share the same interests, and therefore will push you. Well, Patriot Front or a bunch of socialists, because they do not have this experience nor this sort of capital to play around with, aren't capable of doing it as easily. They literally don't have the constant assist that is sometimes necessary, but as we've seen throughout history, not always mandatory. Let's just hope that this is extremely cliche to say, but I'll fucking say it as I cringe. Let's hope we get to socialism before we get to barbarism. And I want to go on. Yeah.
Just in that sense, I just wanted to add a little bit, because I think yes, my original statement lacked the caveats necessary added by you guys, but I just wanted to point it back on this, because I think this is why we have to be careful, and why I mentioned this notion of control opposition and the rise of the new right. In a way, and of course I know the four of us we're not included in this comment. I will state it before, and most of our Marxist friends are not included in this comment. But I just want people to really be critical about what they hear, and the policies that they have to vote for, and the candidates that they have to choose, and the way they act politically or socially, which is the same thing. And we have to be very aware, because I think the woke movement, and I don't want to mischaracterize and just make a straw man argument out of this, but I think the woke movement has done much more for the further advancement of neoliberalism than the reactionaries have. This is my key point.
But the fundamental understanding, and sorry, this is just giving the context again. The reason that you're saying this, it's correct, but that's because the quote-unquote woke movement is not an organic leftist movement. The woke movement is the height of
bourgeoisie,
liberal commodification of identity, in hoping that will drive sales, or at least drive outrage that will then drive sales, because people are wondering, oh, what is this that's so fucking outrageous right now? Cleopatra's black? What? We need to check this out, right?
It always ends up with this logic that your actions in the market can fix the world. So people have to be very much aware of this. If whatever they're selling you as opposition or as subversiveness ends up in you taking decisions in the free market, my friend, you have just been co-opted by free liberal market capitalism. This is the only thing I wanted people to be aware when they listen to this. It's very easy for our energy to be co-opted, especially since our energy availability it's on the low recently. Exactly, because we have to compete all the time and work all the time. And even when you're at home and on vacation and on free time, you have to be over-preparing yourself for the competition. So the very little energy you have left at the end of the day, and your a little bit of, wishful spirit that wants a better world for your children or future generations or your dogs or whatever, and they co-opt you into buying something that's going to make the world better, or even not buying something to make the world better. Don't do that. Please be smarter than that. You're just being co-opted. This is control opposition. It's not going to lead us anywhere. We need class analysis. We need material analysis. We need class consciousness. We need to think deeper than that.
We concentrate too much on our fear of the stick and we ignore the small little whispers that sometimes do more de-radicalization than any stick that we can think of. Absolutely. That's why liberalism has always been far scarier, at least to me, than any sort of, hyper authoritarian, like they're walking into my house, throwing me out, blowing my kids' brains out in front of me, because the first one you kind of organically do not sense is happening. You organically do not sense that it is pushing you further and further away from what you would like for yourself, for your fellow man, and your family.
Isn't there a movie like recently or right now? Because I know there's a new movie called Civil War that is just coming out, but I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah.
And there's another one. And there's another one.
Didn't
called...
he say like, "Oh, I'm making sure it's like not political or something"? What the fuck?
Yeah, that's
stupid.
dumb. And the other one was Leaving the World Behind, that was co-written or co-produced by the Obamas.
Oh no, I haven't seen that.
Holy shit, I haven't seen that either.
That one is on Netflix, and it's about the same topic. It's mainly a civil war in America, which, by the way, that's why I'm reading Walter Benjamin again. And I think there's a relationship between cinema dreaming for us. Cinema does the collective dreaming, even when it's done wrong. But cinema has this aspect of societal dreaming. And of course, in average, empires tend to last 250 years. The U.S. is turning 246, so hooray, motherfuckers. So in that sense, I have some wishful thinking that yes, something is going to happen. But the way those movies play out, they scare you out of these totalitarian regimes, and they co-opt you again back into Mika. There is no alternative. Tina. Sorry, Mika is in Spanish. Yeah. Tina is in English. There is no alternative. So they co-opt us back into saying, but have you seen Trump? Oh my God.
Could be
Trump,
worse.
Trump is so scary. Oh my God. Yeah, the fascists. Let's all be just woke liberals and keep on the same direction. That's why it really scares me, because that's much more totalitarian in the sense that this subtle totalitarianism is where we are right now.
It's a quiet dystopia.
That's we live in a de facto anarcho-capitalist dystopia. This is where we live. We dress it up. We have poetry. We pretend to vote. We pretend the left and the right are different. We pretend liberals are different from Republicans. We pretend. And in the end of the day, we are so tired. We have so little time. But none of us has homes. None of us owns the shit we need. None of us have water. That's the truth. In material reality, we're not talking about property. And I need to talk about property more. I need people to worry about owning shit in the future and not renting everything that they need and just pretending to vote to make the world better.
Absolutely. So let's end on a positive note and a recap of something we talked about the previous time. Last time you were on, we talked about the importance of international socialism. You even mentioned it in the beginning of the episode, where class-conscious agitators exchange ideas, perspectives, and direction across seemingly different cultures and, of course, material conditions. Half the reason, correct me if I'm wrong, Hakeem and JT, but half the reason we made this show in the first place is because of that to an extent. In that context, Kamala recently went to Puerto Rico. I didn't know this. I saw it on your channel, actually. She went to Puerto Rico and started dancing along to a song the locals were shouting at her, thinking, oh my God, they love me. Not understanding that they were mocking both her and the state she represents as colonialists. What do you think can be done to introduce more class consciousness through international solidarity and exchange, specifically to our American brothers, sisters, and enemies? Or do we have to kind of wait out the end of this major identity crisis empire?
I think this is an interesting question. I was just reading the other day about Nixon losing all televised debates but winning all radio debates. And then when we go to Marshall McLuhan and the medium theory, this is where it gets interesting for us. So we have to understand that, and again, Marx is always right. No matter when you're listening to this, even if you found this podcast in a hard drive after Fallout and you bought this with bottle caps, this is still true. Marx was right, guys. So Marx was right in the sense that it's only material conditions that provide for the emergence of idealistic superstructures. So why did Nixon lose televised debates but won radio debates. And why was Hitler so prominent when it came to radio speeches? And why are doomers so seduced by fake news and, like this? Because media, in a way, provide us with a different material way to engage with reality. It serves as a vehicle for us to engage with reality. When the first Uncle Sam posters came out, like, I need you to join the army. People was not really used to posters. Posters were a new thing. So seeing a guy dressed up as an old America, pointing a finger at your face and saying he needs you specifically, really felt like something impactful. Right now, it wouldn't do a dent to your day. You would walk past it. Actually, past generations were not so used to images. So images were very impactful. When they first transmitted in radio War of the Worlds, people were actually scared and having psychotic breaks because they could not tell reality from fiction, right? So the same happened when Hitler was giving speeches on the radio. People were not used to being lied that way in the radio. The way he spoke, his leadership, his inspirational quotes and values, and his enunciation capacity was not something normal on the radio. So people were seduced. When it comes to TV shows, people were not ready to see, right? So new media always presents an event window for change. We have to be smarter, and I think we haven't been smarter because of our devotion to realism. And I think we can even trace it back to Engels' love for realistic aesthetics and the despise of Marxists for figurative aesthetics. And we have to find new ways to articulate our relationship to materiality, but understanding that new media is an opportunity to re-engage with these strata of the population that are feeling heavily alienated, but don't know how to articulate their alienation in order to transform the articulation of alienation towards a productive end. This is our opportunity as content creators. We have to be aesthetically pleasing, we have to be engaging, we have to be entertaining, we have to be able to provide with the alienated youth to articulate the uncomfort they have with material conditions towards a common end, and that is revolution, my comrades. I know you guys are just too nice to me to pamper to my crazy abstract monologues, but I wish I had more pushback and more feedback. I don't know if you guys.
There's not going to be pushback when we agree on certain things, and on the things where we also agreed, but you use just different language to explain basically the same thing. Hakeem and JT and me came in and we gave, but what kind of pushback to things that you agree with on, cannot phrase yourself?
I didn't mean that question rhetorically. It's just the fact that most of the time, I don't know if you guys share this feeling, but as content creators, we also, even as academics or Marxists, we can end up in echo chambers. So it's important for us to have this opportunity to ventilate these crazy ideas that those are not even ideas I'm able to articulate in videos yet. I'm just bouncing them with you guys because just came out of a book. I'm trying to figure them out in my head, and I'm like, okay, like I have my camera support group that I can come to, and it's just like guys, I'm struggling with this. This is the way I see it. How do you feel? No, but then again, I feel that's why these spaces are so important.
Absolutely. No, I mean we talk about this quite a lot, and we even mentioned it last time you were on, and now we are bringing it up again. And kind of since we last met, I think me and Hakeem and JT kind of articulated either a way for us to excuse away commodifying anti-capitalist rhetoric and indirectly turning it into a product. So that's the bad ending. That is, the nightmare that maybe what we're doing right now is just,
products.
Alleviating alienation by you sitting down, listening to how bad capitalism is and being able to move on, or the opposite, how we kind of explain it to ourselves. What we're doing here is agitation, and it works as agitation as long as it has results. And what are the results? Even if one, hopefully more, people actually go out there and organize, actually participate in the material building of a revolutionary movement, right? Then we have done our part as agitators. But if we do not motivate people to move further down the funnel, if you want to call it that, or, go outside, touch grass, if you want to call it that, then we're just engaging in a circle jerk to increase the number of our patrons or whatever the fuck, which I would literally blow my brains out if I ever realized that that's the entire contribution I've had to the movement before I close my eyes every fucking evening.
No, you're doing much more than
there's
that.
Lots, and there's genuine discussion and debate starting about this online. I mean, you bring it up, and I've seen plenty of people that are doing this online, but also like people in the quote unquote real world looking at the shit that's happening online and being like, what the fuck? And it's always either extreme skepticism and, applying, the revolution will not be televised, the revolution will not be streamed, right? Or you have the opposite that say what I agree more, especially in the context of what you said previously, are saying, dude, this is the biggest medium that currently exists. And not only that, it's arguably the biggest one that has ever existed in history. You have so many fucking ears and eyes at your fingertips. So not utilizing it would be absolutely batshit fucking insane. But
Agreed.
As you do it, you need to be careful not to quite literally, as again you said previously about the how liberalism manages to co-opt absolutely everything and is far scarier than very direct fascist movements. The very real ability for us to get commodified as well, and for anti-capitalist rhetoric, for revolutionary rhetoric to just become another fucking product you can buy, so that you can feel a bit better about yourself. So those are the different schools of thought, and history, as everything, I think, will say if we contributed to jack shit or not, basically.
Yeah. So I can just say that I started watching your videos before I made mine. So whatever I am, it's partially consequence because of what you guys are doing. So in that sense, I'm very, very, very humble for the opportunity.
Our pleasure, genuinely. Thank you very much, Diego, for coming on. We would like to do this again, obviously, in the future. We will come on your show as well. But before we part ways on this beautiful morning, afternoon / evening, depending on where our listeners are from, please do tell them where they can find you.
Sure. So you guys can find me as Diego Rusarin. That's with a double Z in the middle. And pretty much as my name on all platforms. I think you mentioned at the beginning, so I have a YouTube channel where I do news. I'm very vocal and very sarcastic and memestic in X. I have like 1 million followers on Instagram. And I'm also like pretty big on Facebook, but most of my Facebook accounts are banned, even like because Facebook is huge in Latin America. But because I speak so much about the freedom of Palestine and about the injustices of colonization, and some of my news are very controversial, Meta has me banned everywhere. So I have like a 3 million follower account on Facebook and another one that is like 1.5 million. And both of them are demonetized because I speak too much about the freedom of Palestine. Yeah.
Fucking Meta, man. Meta is so not Meta. Fuck them. We'll put all those links in the description. Thank you again, Diego, and thank you to our beautiful patrons without whom we would not be able to do absolutely any of this. So either consider supporting your favorite commodified communists, or if it is the opposite, your favorite online agitation mechanism. Either way, you will get plenty of benefits, and more importantly, you will allow us to continue to be as independent as possible and to do this on the regular as we've been doing for, over 2 years now.
All right, so this has been the Deprogram. I'm Hakeem.
I'm JT.
I'm Yugopnik.
And I'm Diego Rusarin, trying to unite comrades from all over the world.
Hey,
based. Yeah, let's go.